All right, let's talk about something that we all wrestle with. Forgiveness. It's this huge concept, right? Whether we're the one who needs it or the one who has to give it. But what does it really mean to forgive someone? And is there a limit? Let's dive in.
So our whole exploration kicks off with this question, a really practical, really human question from Peter, one of Jesus' inner circle. And you can almost hear him, can't you? He just wants a number, a rule. How many times do I have to do this? Is 7 enough? And honestly, 7 sounds pretty generous. It feels like a totally reasonable line in the sand. It's a question we've all asked, one way or another.
And Jesus' answer is just wow, 70 times 7. Now, this isn't a math problem. He's not telling Peter to get a notepad and start tallying up to 490. No, he's using this number to completely blow up Peter's way of thinking. He's saying forgiveness isn't about keeping score at all. It's about losing count entirely. It's this radical, unlimited mindset.
To really make sure they get this mind-bending idea, Jesus doesn't just leave it there. He tells a story, a parable, about a debt so ridiculously huge, it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
So, picture this. A king decides it's time to settle his accounts. And right out of the gate, this one servant is brought in, and the king lays out what he owes.
The debt is 10,000 talents. Now to us, that's just a number. But to the people listening back then, that number was almost a joke. 10,000 was the biggest number they really had a word for. It was basically their way of saying an infinite amount. It was unpayable.
Okay, but let's be real. 10,000 talents doesn't hit us the same way today. To really feel the weight of this, we need to break it down into terms that we can actually understand. So what are we talking about here?
So let's start here. A single talent was worth about 20 years of work for an average guy. 20 years. And this servant didn't owe 1 or 10. He owed 10,000. You can probably see where this is going. The math gets absolutely insane.
That's right, 200,000 years of work. It's a number so large, it's meaningless. And that's exactly Jesus' point. The debt is impossible. There is literally no way this servant could ever make it right.
So, naturally, the servant completely panics, falls on his knees, and begs for more time, which, as we just established, is a totally pointless request. But then, the king does something truly unthinkable. Moved by compassion, he doesn't just give him an extension, he cancels it. The whole thing. Poof. Gone. An absolutely incredible act of grace.
And this is where the story takes a hard left turn. You'd think a guy who just experienced that kind of life-altering mercy would be, well, changed. But no. The second he walks out of the king's presence, he hunts down a fellow servant who owes him a little bit of money.
And when you see the numbers side by side, the hypocrisy is just breathtaking. The debt he was forgiven? 60 million denarii, or 200,000 years of work. The debt he was demanding? 100 denarii, about 3 months' wages. It's not even apples and oranges. It's like comparing the entire national debt to the cost of a cup of coffee. The contrast is supposed to shock us.
And get this, the other man begs him for mercy, using the exact same words the servant himself had just used before the king. But it doesn't matter. He grabs him, starts choking him, and has him thrown into prison over this tiny amount. He received an infinite ocean of mercy and refused to give even a single drop.
That parable is just a massive wake-up call. It's meant to be jarring, and it forces us to ask a really important question. If that's the wrong way to respond, what's the right way? And even more to the point, why should we forgive in the first place?
Well, the logic flows right out of that story. Number 1, and this is the big one, we forgive because we've been forgiven a debt that was astronomically bigger. 2, it's a direct command. 3, it's actually a way that we grow and begin to look more like the one who forgave us. And finally, and this is a big one for our own well-being, holding on to unforgiveness just poisons us from the inside.
Yeah, that last point is captured so perfectly in this famous saying, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Think about that. Unforgiveness doesn't really harm the other person. It eats away at you. It's a poison you choose to drink every single day.
Okay, so we get the why, but now let's get super practical, because this is where the rubber meets the road and where a lot of us get tripped up. What does forgiveness actually look like? And, just as important, what is it not?
This has to be the number one objection, right? How can I possibly forgive? I can't just forget what they did. The pain is real, the memory is burned in your mind. Does forgiveness mean you have to get amnesia? And the answer is a huge relief. No, absolutely not. Forgiveness is not forgetting. In fact, you might never forget. Forgiveness is choosing to unhitch the bitterness from that memory. It's being able to look back at what happened without it hijacking your emotions and ruining your present. It's about freedom. Your freedom.
Okay, here's the other big one. Does forgiving someone mean we're just saying, oh, it's okay, that we're letting them get away with it, that there shouldn't be any consequences?
You know, the author C.S. Lewis put it so well. Think about it this way. Forgiveness is an internal act. It's about your heart healing from the wound they caused. Justice, on the other hand, is an external process. You can absolutely forgive someone in your heart, releasing them from the emotional debt they owe you, while still believing they need to face the legal or social consequences for what they did. One is about your healing, the other is about their actions. They aren't mutually exclusive.
So when you put all these pieces together, you start to see that forgiveness isn't just a one-time transaction. It's more like a posture, a mindset, a conscious choice you make again and again.
And you know, there's probably no better real-world example of this than the story of Joseph. I mean, this guy was sold into slavery by his own brothers out of pure jealousy. He was betrayed, lied about, thrown in prison. He had every single reason to want revenge.
But at the end of the story, when he has all the power and his brothers are at his mercy, he chooses forgiveness. And just listen to his reasoning. He looks them in the eye and says this. He doesn't pretend what they did wasn't evil. He calls it out. But he chooses to see it through a much bigger lens, a lens of redemption. And that perspective is what set him free to forgive.
And that really brings us right to the heart of it all. Forgiveness is almost never a feeling. You will rarely, if ever, feel like forgiving someone who has deeply hurt you. It's a decision. It's a choice to cancel a debt because a much bigger one was canceled for you. It's a choice to put down the poison of resentment and start healing. So the final question isn't about how you feel. It's what will you decide?